Hi guys, I hope you're all doing well. This is Chris Nglezu from CE Fish Essentials, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of my video blog. Thank you for joining me. Today I want to talk to you guys about discus fish, and particularly I want to talk about a really interesting piece of research that I read many years ago, but which I sort of revisited in recent days, and I realized just how fascinating this one particular piece of research was, and I wanted to share it with you guys, and I wanted to ask your thoughts. What do you think about a particular subject that I'm going to raise? Now, I'm so fascinated by discus fish. I've kept them for many years. Currently I do not keep discus fish, but it's always very tempting to set up a discus fish aquarium because they are such charismatic fish. They're so interesting to watch. They're almost like a mascot of the Amazon in many ways, especially if you're a fish keeper. They've always been a fish that fascinated me. Anyway, coming back to this piece of research, I'll put it up on the screen for you guys to see anyway. So this was a piece of research done by William Crampton, published in 2008. Now it talks about lots of things in this research. The diet of fishes, it talks about different conditions and seasonality, habitats, and coloring, sexual development, social dynamics, lots of things. And it was the social dynamic part that really sparked my interest, because it gives a sort of a higher level of awareness to this species, this fish, that says actually this is an organized fish, a fish that has a strategy for its survival. And so I was exploring this idea and saying, is this really the case? So anyway, I'll give you guys a bit of background, and then we can talk about what they found in this research and discuss whether we feel this is an adaptation for this type of survival strategy, or what exactly it is. All right, so anyway, the lake in question that they surveyed was the Lago Amana, and it's connected, or it's very closely associated with another lake called the Lago Urini, or Urini. I don't know how they pronounce it, most likely the latter, but I haven't been there, so forgive my pronunciation. They focused in on Lago Urini and an area called Uxi or Uxi Bay in Lago Amana. And they collected groups of discus fish from their galhadas, which are like the specific habitats where you find discus fish. Usually they comprise fallen trees and their roots and branches alongside the lake margins. This is typically where you find these groups of discus fish, so it's kind of a specific habitat for them, microhabitat within a greater, wider habitat. And in the dry season, this is the place where you find those fish. In the wet season, when the waters are much higher, the discus fish will go up into the flooded forests, and they do their reproduction and so on and so on. So yeah, they do occupy two quite distinct and different habitats at different times of the year. Right, so we're focusing in now on this dry season in these galhadas with large groups of discus hiding under these submerged fallen trees. And in this area, for those interested in biotope aquariums and recreating these habitats, the major plant life around these areas comprises Cimmeria paniculata, which is a type of tree. Actually, it very closely resembles the leaves of avocado trees, actually, Persea. So if you were trying to recreate this in your aquarium, you may want to use something like Persea leaves that look very similar. You could potentially use something like a magnolia leaf if you wanted to. Very, very similar type. But Persea, to me, it really looks very similar to a Persea leaf. But the main tree species that dominated this particular habitat was Coccoloba ovata. So this is like a fruit tree, and they make these small red kind of berries, I suppose, which are food. It can be eaten. Fish eat them too. And you find this tree species exist in Orinoquia, in Amazonas. If you imagine an area from Vichada department all the way down to like Valpez and the upper Rio Negro region, down to the sort of Purus arch, and these green discus habitats as well. So these are the sort of species that you have around these habitats, surrounding these lakes. Now, to my understanding, this region, you have Kawari Lake, you have Jutai, you have a couple of others which have slipped my mind now, but these are typically green discus habitats in these lakes. And so it's quite unusual that they found blue discus in groups, blue-brown discus, because their phenotype varies. But yeah, it was really, really interesting that you find both of those things. Now, the interesting thing, I'm going to give you guys some statistics to think about, is that from the group, one particular group of fish that they collected in Uxie Bay, they found that of the 258 discus collected, 33 of them, so this represents about 12.8%, showed this kind of royal patterning. So the patterning went right across the body, the full body. And then, excuse my printer in the background having an aneurysm. Anyway, the second smaller group that were collected in Uxie Bay and Lago Urini together, because they kind of put this smaller group together, there were, out of 24 discus collected, they found 13 of them, so 54.2%, almost a little bit more than half, of those discus collected in these kind of shore scrub habitats, so within the galhadas, were also showing this royal patterning. Now, what I found very, very interesting is that also in this paper, they mention that they identify that there are 5 stages of gonadal development, so sexual development in male and female discus. So they looked at the testes and they looked at the ovaries of the discus fish, and how do you say it? They allocated stage names for the level of development that they were at. And one of the most fascinating parts that I came across was that not only was it that so stage 5 was the most, completely developed gonads, or whether they were male or female. There was only one fish that had this stage 5 sexual development stage, a completely mature sexual specimen that also exhibited this alpha patterning. That was one interesting thing for me, because there were a smaller number just below this one in stage 4 that were almost like not fully developed, but they were ready to be that if they needed to be. So a number of sort of candidates in line waiting almost. But interestingly was that there were some specimens that had a good level of sexual development, whether it be 3 or 4 stage, that didn't exhibit this royal patterning. So that to me was quite interesting also, because then if my initial belief was that it was directly connected to the level of perhaps hormones, and then you could say, oh well, the ones with the most hormones had this amount more of more coloration, and so therefore that is why they look that way, and to a degree that may be part of that process. But the fact that some of them didn't fall into that pattern suggests to me that there's a kind of social role involved. So a decision by the group or an individual to partake in some form of strategy, a reasoning for being that colourful. Now, the paper suggests that these individuals that have these full alpha markings kind of sit on the outskirts of the discus groups, and almost, well, there was a belief by Blair that they act as a decoy, but to me, to distract predatory fish from the group. But to me, I'm not sure if that's the case. It could well be the case, and I'll explain why. So my argument that it may not be the case is because you have the most sexually developed individual putting themselves in the most danger. So in that sense, you're sort of saying, well, why would they risk themselves if they're the ones that are supposed to reproduce? They'll also be, if you've observed discus fish in any form, the most aggressive, the most protective, territorial, and they can be pretty feisty. I've seen them in the Kölner Zoo in Germany, a pair of discus fish, fighting piranhas away because they cohabit them together. And the piranhas are much larger and obviously much more able to defeat the discus than the discus is the piranha. So they can be really, really cichlid in their nature if they need to be, shall we say. And then the other argument is that, okay, maybe that individual goes to the front, he or she actually, in this case, it doesn't necessarily have to be a male that's most colourful, but would be on the outskirts of the group, acting as this decoy, as Blair suggested, knowing that if it has to fight off a predator and loses, there are a number of individuals right behind them that are this far away from being fully developed that could reproduce and pass on these best genes, shall we say. So if I have to choose an option, I'd probably lean towards the latter and say that because there are these individuals waiting in line, that this could be a decoy that sits on the outside. But in that sense, then you have a group that is being protected by an alpha individual. Now this puts discus fish in line with something like wolves. This is fascinating, that there's some type of social structure involved, and there may be other more complex aspects of their social structure as well, and so I find this really, really fascinating. I wonder if you guys also do find this interesting, and what your thoughts are on this. And I'm not going to get too more complicated about it. It's as that simple. Are discus as socially complex as wolves, or are they similar in their social complexity? Should we be saying, wow, this is incredible that these fish exhibit this type of behavior? I find it fascinating personally. But how does this strike you guys? Did you know that discus fish were this complex? Did you know that there was this structure almost to their social dynamics? And, you know, how do you feel about it? What do you believe? What does it evoke in your minds? All right, do comment, guys. Do let me know. And I really look forward to discussing this one, because it's a topic that I find really fascinating. All right, I'll leave any links and all that stuff in the caption, but I'm going to put little things on the video for you to see, so you can search them really easily on Google as well if you want to. All right, thanks again for joining me. Have a fantastic day. Wishing you all the best. And please, if you can, just hit the little subscribe button. It really helps me out to try and get my followers up and reach more people. If you are interested in freshwater conservation in any capacity, if the idea of helping to protect freshwater fish species in the wild interests you, or, you know, pulls on your heartstrings, if you care about nature in that way, please do take a moment to follow Freshwater Life Project on all the relevant social media platforms. Follow their website, freshwaterlifeproject.org, and if you are able to, give a donation and make a difference. All right, wishing you all the best. Bye.